Everybody. This is Mantastic Nick. So this is kind of my first video outside of my little welcome setup I had. Um, but I just want to weigh in on some things that have been bothering me lately, and that's this media initiated. I don't call it a race war, but division between races, primarily whites and blacks right now with the killings in the police killings in Baton Rouge, as well as Minnesota, by ignorant cops, uh, ignorant police officers. But the issue here is this is completely fueled by the media. I mean, you have a couple of moronic idiot cops who seem like they have no idea what they're doing. Seemed like it was their first time, you know, trying to get a suspect in order. It really did. And before I get into this, I really want to say that those two kids that were killed in Baton Rouge and Minnesota did not deserve to die. They did not receive just treatment, obviously. And those cops were ignorant, whether or not they were racist. I really don't think that they were. I just think it was adrenaline pumping, ignorance, uh, you know. But be that as it may, I just want to bring a new perspective here that I've been kind of thinking about, and that is, you know, with with the world events going on, the media likes to hone in on this one topic, and that's the white versus black, and they're putting ratings before lives. They really are. You don't hear about the kids that get kidnapped or the soldiers that get killed or those are glimpses that you really got to look for to see and find. When kids get kidnapped and tortured, raped, murdered, or all the above, or some combination, you don't hear about that, and you don't see protesters. When a soldier dies, they die all the time overseas, and you don't hear protesters. You don't see protests for that. Uh, when a black officer, shoots, statistically, black officers kill more black armed and unarmed suspects than whites nationwide, and you don't hear protests for that. Black on black crime, African American on African American crime, whatever. Uh, you know, between the ages of 18 and what is it, 40, the number one reason for death in the black community is death by another black member, and that's black on black crime. And you don't see protests for that either. Uh, you just don't. And then I hear, and not only that, I'll get to that in a minute. After the shootings in Dallas against the police officers, um, which again fueled completely by the media, uh, you don't see white people going out and protesting that. You just don't. And you know, I hear that these kids that were killed in Baton Rouge and Minnesota, and I don't know enough about the kid in Minnesota, and I'm not saying that I know a lot about the kid in Baton Rouge either, but I shouldn't say kid, but the adult, uh, you know, I hear that he was a humanitarian and was doing what he was supposed to be doing. Well, really? Because if I remember right, he was selling bootleg CDs and DVDs on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night after midnight. Now, you got a 15-year-old son at home. Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? I think we're getting the definition of a humanitarian a little bit mixed up, but before you criticize me for saying that's their culture or that's what he's been reduced to having to do is selling CDs and DVDs on a street corner, whatever, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't grow up wealthy. In fact, we were borderline poverty. Eating chili dogs and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch. I didn't. I'm a white guy, but I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't grow up in the suburbs of Seattle or the suburbs of LA where I was, go to a private. I just don't want to hear excuses for these guys anymore. Some people need to take responsibility. Now, that's not to say I really honestly hope that the police officers involved in both cases, I really hope that they're sent to prison. Honestly, they should go to jail for murder. There's no question about it. Just because you're a police officer doesn't mean you get a free pass if you screw up. If that had happened and the guy got killed by a civilian, the same mix-up, he'd go to jail for murder or at least manslaughter. He'd get jail time, and I don't know. I want to open up some lines of communication from a different perspective. I think that those cops screwed up, and they're ignorant, and it's questionable whether or not they should have even been cops in the first place. Honestly, that's not off the table either. But as far as protests, I just don't think that we need to be protesting this. There's bigger things going on in the world right now that could impact us a lot. We don't need to divide and create this race war, and it's almost directly caused, certainly indirectly caused, by the media. There's no question about it. You don't see on the news about the kids that get kidnapped every day, about the sickening stuff that goes on worldwide. And I also know that it's American news. I get that, but we shouldn't be focusing on this race issue. We need to come together. We really do, and take responsible for our own actions. But anyway, that's kind of my take on the issue. I wanted to open up some new ways of thinking about it. I feel like we've been reduced and spoon fed this indirect hate notion against races, and I think that's wrong. And there's enough people out there speaking out against this, but I just want to open that up and to let you know how I feel and other people feel. But we'll call that a night. My kid's bugging me, so I'll cut this short. That one's for you.